Today's topics from our commentary on Reuters Breaking Views. EU leaders remain vague on some key issues of the permanent bailout mechanism agreed upon in Brussels Thursday. But are they right to keep markets guessing? Spanish mortgages might be another unwelcome headache for Spanish banks in addition to commercial real estate exposure. And it's official, the biggest banks are the weakest. That's according to Peter Tal Larsen's latest piece. Reuters Breaking Views assistant editor Chris Hughes here to elaborate. Chris, you say, or Pierre says, overall, the European leaders are right to keep the markets guessing. Surely it's uncertainty and vagueness that undermines markets.
Yeah, well, I can see why you say that, Axel. I mean, look, what have we got here? We've got an agreement, a sort of political agreement that was required to make the new European bailout facility post-2013 sort of kick in. What we don't have is details on what would actually trigger that, how big any bailout would be, what the kind of private sector involvement would be in terms of bondholder haircuts. That's all been left pretty vague. Now, as you say, that uncertainty is usually a bad thing, but just think about it the other way. If the summit had ended in a sort of very clear bailout package with a number, what would trigger it?
Yes.
You're basically telling the market, here's what we think is going to happen, and the market would
here's how bad we think it is going to be.
Here's how bad we think it's going to get, and the market would go, crikey, right? This is a bailout that's been prepared for a very specific situation. And it would become a self-fulfilling prophecy, probably. And also it would create a sort of degree of moral hazard. If you sort of sketch out precisely what the conditions are, you're basically sort of allowing, nations to kind of game it.
And
so actually, we think they've done pretty well.
You might be winning me over, actually, because to be fair, the market really didn't react too badly to this at all.
It's you don't want to give away too much. And this has got the actual sort of political foundations of it in place. If you give away any more, you're probably asking for trouble. Right.
Mortgages in Spain, that's the next problem, is it?
Well, everyone in Spain is focused on the lending to the construction sector.
Yes.
And the sort of prevailing view is, well, you know what? It's still not as bad as it was in 1993 when interest rates hit sort of nearly 14% and unemployment was even higher than it is now at 24%. And even back then, we only had 4% of mortgages go sour. So how could it possibly be, a sort of big problem, the mortgage lending in Spain? But what that misses is that lending to homeowners really did explode in the boom, and there's just been a sort of massive kind of growth in the supply of properties. So there's a sort of potentially bigger housing problem, even if you can sort of say that the actual sort of macroeconomic backdrop isn't quite as bad.
And when does this bite?
Well, people have been talking about, a really big crash in Spanish house prices for a while, and it hasn't actually happened yet. But, over the coming year, as, the austerity measures sort of kick in and things get tougher, you could say that if bad mortgage debt is, say, twice as bad as it was in 1993, you're looking at a 50 billion euro hit on top of your sort of potential sort of 180 billion exposure to real estate. So, we wouldn't be so complacent about the problems posed by Spanish mortgages.
OK, let's finish up with this Basel III detail that came out yesterday, and Peter wrote a piece about it, Peter Tal Larsen. The title, it's official, the biggest banks are the weakest. It's this statistic. If these new rules had been in place last year, the 94 largest lenders would have needed a massive amount of extra capital.
577 billion euros, yeah. I mean, that is how much they would have
needed. That puts it into perspective.
I mean, I'm talking about this is too big to fail in practice, So, the 94 biggest lenders surveyed by Basel, I think their average common equity tier 1 ratio was 5.7%. The prevailing wisdom now is that sort of 7% is where you really want to be. To get up to that 7%, you'd have needed almost 600 billion euros of fresh capital. Now, the odd thing is that the actual smaller lenders were already above that 7%. So the smaller lenders are actually sort of the safer ones. And it just shows how far the banking sector's got to go, in particularly the really big banks, in terms of shoring up their capital strength. Now, fortunately, Basel has given them time to do that, but there's a long way to go.
Very good, Chris. Many thanks for that. Chris Hughes. For more agenda-setting insight, watch our US Breaking Views show every day at 13:30 Eastern, 18:30 GMT. I'm Axel Threlfall. This is Reuters.